know anyone who's there. I guess I don't know how to name these anymore when I'm doing them on my phone, because they changed something in the software. So I'll have to look for that. But I wanted to just talk about a few general things. Number one is I made a post on my Facebook page, Sawyer Heaven's Gate, giving my opinions about and reasons for those opinions regarding the individual that's known as Rael, who is the leader of the Raelians, who I understand, have a large following of probably under 100,000 people worldwide. My opinion of him was that he was one of many individuals that became a contactee, space alien contactee, that became an instrument of space aliens, not the next level. And because the space aliens like to pretend to be the creators of the planet, but they're shrewd, and they know that they don't need to pretend in certain ways, because they do have a responsibility of having influenced the development of the human kingdom as depicted by the Book of Enoch and Genesis chapter 6 and throughout the Book of Revelation and other records. That's what all those items are, records, historic records. And as we know, with all historic records, there's the potential for all of them, or part of them, or parts of all of them is probably the best way to say it, to have become distorted and diluted and changed and interpreted in ways that hide the literal parts and disguise them as figurative and in all ways. And okay, so and that's who the true meaning of the Antichrist, that Christian term, is. Everybody who is anti the true individuals who have been performing tasks on this planet for millennium and even, and civilizations. So anyway, when I posted that statement on, there's actually a Facebook page that's called Heaven's Gate. It's a long history of where it came about, but I didn't actually create it. But I was given it by the person I think that created it. And so, not given it, but given, like, you know, the ability to do administer it and do those kind of things. So, and also on my Sawyer Heaven's Gate page. And so now I'm wanting to just add this to my YouTube channel, 3SPM here, that because the post I made about Rael, and I've talked about him before on this channel, and how he, in his book, said that he was in communication with the Elohim, and since he was referring to the Elohim, which are in the book of Genesis, that was attributed to Moses' writings, even though it doesn't mean that it's all been accurate, but probably a bunch is accurate enough for the purposes that served for the development of souls in the beginning of the civilization, that then received updates through Enoch, and then Moses. Well, Moses wrote about some of those updates, and allegedly, and it appears that he was working for the next. Well, I know that he was working for the next level because I believe that Tiendo correctly informed us of that, which you can see them talking about in the book UFOs Extraordinary, UFO Missionaries Extraordinary, and because they didn't really talk about it, they didn't get off on telling people that they were somebody in the Bible from the past. It didn't float their boat to do that because they didn't need to. They already knew what the updates were to all that information. And so it served them to let us know that they were those same individuals, though being a reincarnation of Adam. Well, not the reincarnation of Adam, but the original incarnation of Adam, which wasn't really an incarnation, actually. It was Adam with his next level vehicle performing a task of starting an experiment to put souls to the test as to whether they could overcome the influence of the space aliens, the Luciferian space alien fallen angel souls. I'm not saying that all the illustrations in that story are accurate, but they're accurate enough to show us the overview. Okay, and that's what counts about it. But anyway, Rael said that his space aliens, who he was calling the Elohim, so basically he was calling them the gods of the earth, said that they did not create the earth. And yet, in the book of Genesis, it says that the Elohim created the earth, God. The word God is used in the English versions, and the word is actually Elohim, which translates as judges, magistrates, you know, because they were the older members. And in fact, we're probably speaking about T. Endo, to some degree, but T as the older member, and Do as T's younger member, but Do as our older member, and T as our, like, grandfather, if you want to put it in that parental kind of patriarchal terminology, because that has nothing to do with gender, because the next level doesn't have any gender. So I'm not being patriarchal, really. Anyway, we have to overcome all gender consciousness if we hope to become qualified, meeting the qualifications of the next level in order to become members of that kingdom at some future date. And that qualification starts now for anybody that's alive and potentially hearing this. And if they knew about it before, it started before, in earnest, even though they could be moving in that direction well before ever hearing anything about T and Do. Because the whole human kingdom is a school for the development of souls using vehicles that is the only way we know about or T and Do knew about, and they didn't actually qualify it that way. I don't know if I'm still connected, but it appears I am. But I don't know, I seem to go through that spot and frequently lose connection. So I don't know where I disconnected. But I'll just say that somebody responded to my post about Rael on my Sawyer Heaven's Gate page, and was, acting like, love to you, brother, and all that, and then went on to say that I was a criminal, and that I was promoting that people will die because of my talking about what they consider to be false information about T and Do. And they seem to be somewhat Christian, but it doesn't seem like they knew that much about Scripture to me, because they said things about Jesus that they thought was impossible, and the facts are that nothing. We can't talk about anything as impossible. It's like ants talking about what's possible in the human kingdom and regarding their own, or animals. Maybe ants isn't the best word, but animals. It's like dogs and barking together about what the human kingdom is not about. Saying, okay, it's not about that. They don't have corporations, if they could even say that, of course. That's kind of ridiculous, right? They don't have that kind of capacity. And so whenever I hear somebody telling me that Jesus, the Christ, would never approve of exiting his vehicle by his own hand, what humans call suicide. And of course, T and Do and crew, well, I should say Do and crew, but I know that T was behind everything Do felt because he was so well connected to T that I can say with confidence that T, Do, and crew were against suicide. Now, there's two forms of suicide. One is human suicide, which is pertinent to us, because we are all in human vehicles, and we have not overcome our humanness to the degree that the older members of the next level I'm not sure how to say this part, but feel that that step of laying down our body is of the best value to us at this time. Now, I could be wrong about that because I'm not in my older member's shoes. But they did say that the door was open for that for a short time. And I don't know what a short time means. I can't, the door's not closed. I'm not saying it's closed. But how we exit doesn't make any sense to not take advantage of the human vehicles that we have. And that's very clear in their documents that if our vehicles are functioning, then we have the capacity to learn lessons and also to serve the next level. So we should take full advantage of that. Because if we left right now by our own hand or by any hand, you know, by disease or by, you know, somebody murdered one of us, or I say us, it being anybody, or by an accident, you know, then the next level would decide what to do with that soul, if there was a soul in the vehicle, and or the spirit of that vehicle, the mind of that vehicle. And so, like Doe said, even about some of those 38, that he suspected that some might have to come back and finish their overcoming. But apparently they had demonstrated enough overcoming to the next level that he permitted them to exit with them. Because Doe knew that they were souls. He knew that they were souls. I feel like I know that they are souls. Not because T and Doe told me that. There's a lot of things that they told me that I can't say that I know from personal experience. But I feel like I know it because I know from personal experience who T and Doe are. And they said it. And I know they didn't say things willy-nilly. And there's a ton of evidence in the audio tapes that they never said things willy-nilly, or if they were using logic or considering a certain way of thinking, or evaluating or analyzing, or that they told us that that's what they were doing. And you can listen to the audio tapes and you can hear that all the time. But then there were other things that they said as facts. Even though some of the things that they said as facts, they knew were facts for that moment. Because even facts have degrees of accuracy. It's like telling somebody that Susie and John went to the grocery store and bought food. Okay. Let's say that's a fact. But see, what you didn't tell you in that was that what they bought and how long they were there and what they were thinking about when they were in that grocery store, and whether they went anywhere else, and whether they considered what to buy and what not to buy, and what conversations they had that changed their mind about what to buy and what not to buy, and a whole bunch of things, right? So you could say that, maybe that's not the best way of analogy, but you could say that it's a fact they went to the store, like it's a fact that Tiendo felt at first to emphasize the fact that you don't need to die. The physical human vehicle does not need to die to go to the next level. But what they didn't say at that moment necessarily, when they were talking about that was quoted, was that you did have to prove to the next level that you had changed over your human vehicle and had adopted enough next level mind to where that human vehicle could function on a next level spacecraft, or at least be ready for the laboratory of being moved into a next level grown vehicle, physical dense vehicle, as opposed to the less physical dense soul body that is what is growing using the human vehicles. So they didn't change their mind about it ever, about bringing your vehicle with you on board the spacecraft. And though you can see in the Heaven's Gate book, in the Position Against Suicide, and also in the document Junodi wrote about what would take place before and after they left, it's called Away Team from Deep Space Services Before Departure, which gives you a really good synopsis of their point of view at the moment when that document was written until now and thereafter, until this phase is over and the planet is refurbished to be used as either a next level base or as a new garden, or as a new garden before it becomes the next level base. You know, Doe didn't say, he didn't try to guess what T would do with it, because he knew T was his older member and that it was inappropriate for him to tell us exactly the way it was going to be while he was still in his human vehicle. So he gave us some of the possibilities, and he said some of the possibilities because he knew that he might not be thinking about all the possibilities, because he knew that his brain and the mind that he brought with him didn't know exactly what would be done until he got back and he was consulting with his older member and deciding with his older member on how to handle the next phase. Because he's not, people portray him as believing everything that he said. You find out that, once again, I don't know where I got disconnected. Thank you for putting that in there. That's my partner, talking about blocking people. What we do is we block them from making comments. So if they still want to hear what we have to say, they have the option to do that. So anyway, so Kathy, Southwestern Colors, is helping moderate, because I can't do that while I'm here, and she knows well how to determine whether somebody is just being worthless to this information and this live stream, and that's going to probably increase. So they'll just have to come up with another handle if they want to heckle until that gets blocked too. It's just part of the territory. And anyway, so I responded to this person about the Raelian subject, although he wasn't talking about the Raelian. He was talking about, saying that I was a criminal and all this other baloney that there's no evidence of. And, which I've heard before over and over again, blah, 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 blah. It's just typical space alien influence of certain human vehicles that are afraid of the truth about Tiendo, because often they're Christians of some degree, and they have no idea really what Jesus was about. They think they do. They're really full of themselves a lot of times. And I'm not full of myself. I'm full of Tiendo. I'm not saying I'm completely full of them. I've got humanness. I've got weaknesses. But I'm full enough of Tiendo to know what they were teaching. And that's what I try to portray, what they were teaching, as an overview and in detail. But I encourage everybody to actually read and listen and watch the videos and listen to the audios, so that they can and talk to them. Because they can hear the individuals that really have a thirst. They're not going to have casual conversation with anybody, and they're not going to, make anybody into a new leader, and they're not going to make anybody into a special student of some sort, to where they're going to give them new information. None of that's going to happen. I'm not in that position either. I'm not going to be given new information. It's completely unnecessary, and it's against the grain of the next level. Because they know how the garden grows, and they know that those Luciferian, space alien, fallen angel souls love to pretend to be gods, and they'll pretend to be Tiendo. There's people that have the name of their YouTube channel is Next Level Soul. Something like that. And that terminology came from Tiendo, and they've taken it over because it's catchy terminology. But I listened to their channel, and I don't see any evidence of the teachings from Tiendo. I'm not saying that they're doing anything wrong. That's not for me to say. It's not like we need to copyright and trademark every term that Tiendo used, as if that's going to stop anybody. The way that Mark and Sarah think they think they have the task to do that when they weren't given that task. But they got jumbled up in their heads about what their task is. Because of the lower forces, the lower forces work on everybody. And it takes somebody that's willing to admit it when they get off track. and not like hold the line like Mark and Sarah are doing, the Heaven's Gate webmasters, heavensgate.com webmasters, that do not represent T&O necessarily, unless they repeat the things that T&O said in their answers to questions. If they make up stuff like they have, and I've witnessed, then it's, to me, it's the job of others that know the material, like Carl Odie and myself and Juan Odie and anyone else who wants that task, or Kathy, because Kathy studied a lot of the material, so she's got a good handle on it. And there's other individuals that are in the course of studying the material and can see the fallacy in some of the things that individuals are saying, like Mark and Sarah, and Rio to some degree, but I don't know, maybe it seems like he's on the last documentary he said that he's not anybody special, like the last survivor teaching soul evolution or whatever he thought for a little while he was doing. Maybe it seems like maybe he came to his senses that the only tasks that he has are the same kind of tasks that I have, or anybody has that wants it, and that is to get their information out, T&O's information out, and be willing to stand for them, and as from the Creator's kingdom that created this earth and the life forms on it, and be willing to maintain that stand and accept the consequences that come from making that stand. And I started this live stream with talking about some of the consequences. People will say to you that you are a criminal or you are dangerous, and that people are going to die because of you talking about T&O in any kind of positive light. Even if you are saying over and over again, hundreds of times, that you're against suicide, they're going to twist it, and they're going to legitimately, in their minds, think that it's possible that you could just switch gears all of a sudden and say that Marshall Applewhite or Bonnie Nettles told me that you all need to go out and do this. And because they have no concept of how real T&O are and how real I know that they are. This is my answer. It is. I didn't miss it. So I wanted to just talk about that because I wrote along, I had like 37 different questions that I posed. There were questions that had, a little bit of background to some of them to counteract the misinformation that that person on my Sawyer Heaven's Gate page was thinking he was or she was stating as facts, or they were stating as facts. So I wanted to address that and the fact that anybody that serves T&O are going to be up against that, and other kinds of attacks from all directions, even coming from the Heaven's Gate website webmasters, which doesn't reflect at all on T&O. Because the one thing that they haven't done is change that website. And at least up until now, I haven't seen that they changed anything of it, except to, talk about the videos and the price of their book and stuff like that, which I don't think that's a change that is doing any disservice to T&O, because they have the right to charge for the book that they put the money out to publish, even though T&O and crew gave them that money to get started with. It's been a long time since then, and they've been paying for the website, so they deserve to have some funds retrieved. And that's the reason why I wanted to sell t-shirts, to get certain images out there for people to see and stimulate conversation, and also at the same time, not even equal to that. I'd lose money. I wouldn't mind losing money as long as I could afford to continue to do it by making t-shirts and selling them. But it makes sense to recoup the costs that go into that, because otherwise I got to work a job, and that's what I have to do. Over 40 hours a week, I have to work jobs. So, and Kathy does too. And so, and maybe that's a better way to do it right now, because we haven't figured out how else to do it. And we have been open to how T&O might show us another way. I like to think that I'm open to it. We've kind of explored to some degree, like getting some kind of remote data entry job or something. But this job actually has its advantages when it comes to being able to share T&O's information with people and exposing people that otherwise wouldn't be exposed to this information by wearing certain t-shirts, and then being seen in the media, and then being recognized in the town and stuff. That happens to me frequently enough that it seems like it's worth doing. So I don't know if there's doesn't look like, t-shirts, Zach, I'm just going to say that we only have one t-shirt now, I think, that we can sell, because it's not a copyrighted image. And it's an image of T&O from the 1976 New York Times Magazine section front cover of T&O, their vehicles. One Doe standing and T is sitting. And we only have really large versions of those. So if you want one of those, write to sawcat575@gmail.com. I think we sell them for $40 each, because we didn't have the best printing deal at the time. Yes, I believe, Zach, that they were the two witnesses from the book of Revelations, chapter 11. And there's a lot of evidence of that. And I even have some videos, I think, posted on this channel that talk about some of that evidence. I know some of them have been taken down by YouTube because I talked about medical things at the same time, and so they were trying to censor those things, even though I wasn't giving medical advice, but I was talking about things that became against their community guidelines, they said, well after the fact, because it was well before we had those kind of medical problems that stimulated that. So I think I'm going to end the stream because it seems like most of this has been right. I just addressed the two witnesses. So, and I can talk more about that at a future date. And I'll check to see if I have a decent video in there. And you can also look at my blog, sawyerhg.wordpress.com, and search for the words two witnesses, and you'll see a lot of talk about them. But look for the ones that are talking about them in the title, so that you won't have to wade through a whole bunch of things. Because this is actually talked about in my book a great deal as well. And the name of my book is Tiendo, the Father and Jesus, Heaven's Gate, UFO, Two Witnesses. So good night, folks.